Exciting meeting, I promise.
Okay, we are live.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, so here we are. Welcome everyone to the Economic Development Committee meeting. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the committee is practicing physical distancing. I will now look to Mr. Brubaker to conduct the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Jowett. Chair Redmond. Councillor Erb. Councillor Galloway.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Jaworski.
Here.
Councillor Kiefer.
Here.
Councillor McGarry. And Councillor Vanovic noted that he would be running late. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'll look now to the group for any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Just wave your
Hard
hand.
to hear you.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll come in closer. I am now looking for any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So just wave your handy. You have one? Okay, that's that. I guess the first thing we'll do is on the report of the COVID Safe Ambassador Program. Matthew, if you're running this.
Thank you, Chair Jowett. And what we wanted to do today is provide the committee with an update on the initial results of the COVID Safe Ambassador Program, which we've been running over the last 8 months or so across Waterloo region. Joining me today is Ian McLean, the President and CEO of the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce, and Paul Medeiros from NSF International, key program partners in the delivery of the COVID Safe program to date. So where we're going to start today is sort of just a recap, and I'm just going to share my screen. So I'm hoping everyone can see that. So just as a quick recap for the
Black Matthew.
The COVID Safe Ambassador.
Having trouble hearing.
Matthew, we can't hear you and your screen is not sharing. There we go. Thank you.
In early 2021, the region and
hey Matthew, yeah, we can't hear you. You got to shut your screen off or call in, Matthew.
That's pretty bad, Matthew. You're just very warbly.
Sounds like you're calling from space.
Okay, so how shall we proceed then?
Chair, we can wait until Matthew comes back on. I believe he's logged off and is going to try to log back in.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's Paul Medeiros here. I don't want to steal Matthew's thunder at all, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. Chair Redmond, what you said earlier on about the in-between, that really resonated with me, right? Because it seems like all along things evolved and changed. And just when a business thought, hey, I get it, now I get it, then things would change. And so our ambassadors were actually there every step along the way. So as things changed, we were able to tell the businesses and explain how things are changing, how has an impact on them, because the type of business they were would, affect the kind of protocols they had to follow as well. So, in a nutshell, that's one of the values that our ambassadors brought to the program.
Ian, do you have anything to add to that? How do you feel it was received? Ian? How do you feel about how the ambassador program was received by our business community?
Yeah, look, this has been, you all know as well as I do, small businesses are the ones that have borne the brunt of the COVID crisis in terms of businesses that have really been hurt, particularly those in hospitality, tourism, restaurants, etc. What we know is the practical programs that supported small business have been the ones that have been most well received. So whether it's the rapid screening program and our partners from the province and the feds, whether it's the medical grade mask with the Eclipse automation and the regional Waterloo, Ask the Expert program so that our members knew about the financial programs that were available from the province or the federal government. Our Chamber Business Ready, which is online training with our partner Quantify, and then of course the Ambassador program. So I know Matthew, I think you see him there, is gonna kind of go through the report, and Paul will talk about the ambassador, the stickers, and the importance of that. I see them all over the place, and when I ask people about that program, because if they don't know who I am, I get very positive feedback, because what we know is reopening's not recovery, and notwithstanding what the province is accelerating, there's going to be a lot of businesses that still have questions around how to safely operate, when to, mask mandates one thing, but also the whole question of vax verification and other things. Every business is going to be different when they're comfortable moving forward on loosening up, and I think the Ambassador program is tremendously useful in this what I guess would, fingers crossed, be the last of the transition periods as we get back to a new normal. But new normal is going to be different than it was before, and the Ambassador programs played a big role in helping businesses get prepared to this point. And there'll be another this last chunk of having Paul and his gang make sure that businesses feel comfortable as they open up at a speed that they're comfortable opening up at.
And I appreciate it. I see Matthew's back in here, so yep, okay.
And thank you. Apologies to the committee there. It looks like there's a network outage in my entire neighborhood just happened. So thank you, clerks, if you can share the screen. Excellent. Thank you. And thanks, Ian, for providing a bit of a snapshot there and sort of some of the reception that we've received with regards to the program. So just back to where I started, if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So the Ambassador program, just a bit of a background. So we were hearing at the start of 2021 we were receiving a lot of questions and inquiries from small to medium-sized businesses across Waterloo region about the requirements they had to follow from the province, or any sort of local orders or regulations that were in place. A lot of businesses wanted to make sure and continue to want to make sure they are in compliance with whatever requirements are in place. One, I think they want to, ensure that they're creating a safe environment for their patrons and their employees. But two, they just, I think there's just a general interest in understanding that they have such a desire, obviously, to stay open at this, through the pandemic, and they're desperate to do whatever they need to do to make sure that they can stay open. Unfortunately, at that time in particular, our public health team and other teams across the region really did not have the capacity to provide that hands-on support to small and medium-sized businesses. A lot of calls were coming in asking for example, for public health staff to actually go out and, confirm that a business was kind of in compliance with the requirements at that time that were in place with regards to restrictions or safe practices. So understanding that we were receiving that flood of calls at that time, we worked with the local chambers, other partners. We engaged with all of the area municipalities, and we talked about what we could possibly do to support this growing need from small to medium-sized businesses. what we did observe at the time was that the larger businesses had more capacity to, really focus on what their requirements they had were for maybe their larger facilities, or, if they had more employees. It was really the small to medium-sized businesses that didn't have the capacity to really understand a lot of the regulations that were in place at that time. So we were able to, working with NSF, we were able to bring this program concept forward to Regional Council. And in March 2021, Economic Development Committee and Council approved the COVID Safe Ambassador Program. And it was supported through the strategic investment for business supports that was meant to really provide supports to the business community and support economic recovery as a result of the pandemic. Next slide, please. So the program itself, it is really designed to respond to that business request. So, being able to have that dialogue with businesses, provide them that type of guidance. We worked closely with the chambers and NSF and our public health team on building sort of that guidance plan. NSF has had this experience delivering this type of program in other jurisdictions. We were happy that we were the first in Canada to launch a program like this here in Waterloo region. But really it was going right to the business and offering this service to them and answering their questions and providing an assessment of their setup in their business and how they were operating, and then giving them feedback. The program is totally voluntary, so businesses can choose, or they can choose to not participate as well. But as we'll see later on, we've had an overwhelming positive response from the business community with regards to this program. So, I think I talked a little bit about that, businesses wanting to create a safe environment. A lot of business owners really concerned about and wanting to ensure that for their employees, they're really doing everything they can to create a safe environment, and really making sure their operations, with whether it was social distancing, whether it's PPE, whether it's using the proper disinfectants, lots of interest in businesses wanting to learn what the best practices were. Again, the intent also here was to alleviate some of the pressure that public health may have been experiencing specifically with regards to the types of requests, these types of requests coming into them. So our thinking was, if we could establish a program like this, then we could help alleviate some of that pressure while still providing this direct service to businesses. And obviously reinstilling customer confidence, really providing that assurance to customers and patrons going into businesses that, the business is observing safe practices and making it a safe environment for patrons to shop or use the facility. And then one of the unique components of this program was the partnership with with Conestoga College and other post-secondary institutions in Waterloo region and the surrounding areas. We were able to partner with the local health programs at different post-secondary institutions to actually bring in the ambassadors who actually went out and did the assessments at small businesses across Waterloo region. So it was a great way to offer this type of training to essentially the next generation of public health workers here. And it was great to have this type of partnership with our particular local post-secondary institutions and utilize students and senior students to administer the program. I'm actually going to, at this point, turn it over to Paul Medeiros from NSF International, just to explain a little bit more about the actual delivery of the program and how that works for businesses.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, can you flip to the next slide? Great. So as Matthew said, this is a boots on the ground program. So our student ambassadors would visit each business, and they introduced themselves, and provided the operator allowed them in, then they would, and that they were available, they would go in and do the visit. It is a voluntary program. Now, what we found was that 90% of the businesses said, "Yeah, absolutely, come on in. We like the visits." We had a very, very high acceptance rate. What we actually found as well was over time, the acceptance rate increased as businesses became more aware of the program. And as businesses started seeing other businesses with a sticker on their door, they wanted to be part of it as well. Not to mention that businesses could also go online and request their own visit. So it's a combination of our ambassadors scouring the city to visit the businesses, or businesses would register themselves for the visit. So the visit itself would last. There are two types of visits. One, we called it a tier 1. A quicker visit, 30 to 45 minutes, unannounced. The longer ones were a deeper dive visit. Those would typically last up to about 2 hours. Those were announced, those were scheduled. So the visit starts with the ambassador explaining the program. The ambassador then would observe how the business is operating, ask questions, identify any areas that the business could improve, and coach the business as they put in those improvements. Also, they would answer questions that the business would have. Business had a lot of questions as well, which I'll get into. At the conclusion of the visit, if the business was successful, they would receive their COVID-19 ambassador sticker on the door. There are 21 questions on the checklist, of which 11 of those were deemed to be critical questions. Those are the ones that were more critical from a COVID-19 safety perspective. We developed that checklist together with public health, as well as the scoring and everything else. We were tied to the hip with public health as we developed this. And a business that received 2 or fewer of the criticals, they received their sticker on the door. So as Matthew said, we use students to either current or recently graduated students to do the work. We hired the students based on a combination of their public health knowledge and technical acumen, but also significantly for their attitude and their personality. This had to be a friendly visit. The ambassadors had to be great communicators and come across a lot of positivity. So we are absolutely thrilled with how well the ambassadors did. At one point, we had 20 ambassadors when we were at our peak. This is during the summer. Now we're down to around 12 ambassadors. I'm very happy to say that out of those student ambassadors, 3 of them have gone on to work for NSF beyond the program. So it was a great opportunity for them to get their foot in the door with an international organization like NSF. It was great money in their pockets when many students, including my kids who are university age, were having a hard time finding work. So great money in the pocket and great for their resume. Next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, yes, upon the successful completion, they received their sticker on the door. One thing about the sticker, and Matthew alluded to the confidence that it gave. So Waterloo Region was the first in Canada, and the only in Canada, to participate in this program. The state of Michigan participated in a similar program. And at the conclusion of that program, we conducted a survey and we asked the businesses a series of questions. What we found was 97% of the businesses who responded agreed that the ambassadors were of value, knowledgeable, as related to the Michigan standards. 83% of them stated that having the sticker on the door boosted customer confidence and comfort. We've been hearing that anecdotally in Waterloo Region, but what we found based on the survey was that in Michigan, it absolutely did improve confidence. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paul. So just some additional program elements to support the actual administration of this program. So one of the things that we did was we actually created a phone line where businesses could actually call in and ask questions, ask for information on safe practices, or they could actually request an assessment. So they could request that an ambassador come out and conduct either a tier 1 or tier 2 level assessment. We also have a dedicated webpage, again, where businesses can download information or, again, submit a request to have an ambassador come out and conduct an assessment. We created we've created a whole package of specifically information just targeted towards small and medium-sized businesses that really provide the businesses kind of with that overview and sort of that information session that's provided to them when an ambassador comes out, so that they can sort of go back and refer to how to do various, how to operate, how to safely operate in, depending on the type of business they are. We've also, one of the things is, as the program was being administered, there were different phases of restrictions or different requirements that businesses had to follow. As changes happened, we updated all of the information, and we made sure that any businesses that had received and completed an assessment or a visit, they had access to all of that updated information. So really the program does evolve with the different stages of the pandemic as we've been going through it. And we've been able to continue to share up-to-date information with all the businesses that participate in the program. And then, one other area of support, just to sort of understand what the actual uptake in the program is, understanding what some of the challenge areas are or trends that we're seeing with regards to businesses. With NSF, we use a database really just to sort of identify where the greatest needs are, and then make any adjustments or update any information based on what we're observing from the visits to businesses. As Ian probably mentioned earlier, this information is also all available through both the Cambridge and the KW Chambers Chamber Check program, which is just another avenue for businesses to access information about the program. And, I think the COVID Safe program itself is one of many tools that the chambers are offering through the Chamber Check program. One of the things that we saw during the administration of this program is we had particularly a number of local companies that began to manufacture PPE as part of their sort of interest in trying to help other small to medium-sized businesses. We received a number of donations of PPE from some of these larger businesses to distribute to some of these small to medium-sized businesses. So when ambassadors actually go out and approach a business and offer the assessment, either way, they leave them with a package of PPE. We've received things like masks, face shields, hand sanitizer, various types of disinfectant wipes. So it's been a great way for some of the local companies manufacturing PPE to really help share some of the PPE with the smaller to medium-sized businesses. So that's been a nice bonus to the program as well, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback and reception to that as well from some of the small to medium-sized businesses here. Next slide, please. So what as I mentioned, we have a database of information. We've been tracking how the program has been going. Really pleased to say that with regards to our tier 1 visits, we've passed the 4,000 businesses served mark within the short period of time this program's been up and running. That's initially tried to make an estimation of how many businesses would participate in this program. We had allotted up to 5,000 investments in total between the tier 1 and tier 2 programs, and we've already hit the 4,000 mark, and that number continues to rise on a weekly basis. One of the things that we have noticed, and you'll see there's an R1 and there's an R2. And so R1 represents round 1 and R2 represents round 2. And round 2 visits, we decided to start making assessments available again to small to medium-sized businesses who wanted it. Again, one of the observations that we saw were things like COVID fatigue, business, changing requirements. So just to make sure that businesses were aware of up-to-date requirements from maybe the province, for example, and that they were properly implementing that in their establishment, we began to offer and are currently offering a second round of assessments. And notice that there is absolutely the opportunity for businesses to sort of, continuously improve sort of some of their practices right now and ensure that they're creating that safe environment for their employees and patrons. Next slide, please. So one of the other, this slide is actually just sort of some of the numbers on our tier 2 visits, and really maybe actually I'll probably turn it over back to Paul to sort of speak a little bit about the tier 2 visits that NSF undertook and what that looked like in comparison to some of the tier 1 visits that were completed.
Thanks, Matthew. So as I mentioned earlier, the tier 2 visit was a deeper dive visit. It was designed primarily for manufacturing plants, larger facilities where we really couldn't do them justice in a 30 or 45 minute visit. So we actually did 40 of these based on businesses requesting them. However, what's not captured here is that last summer, you may recall there was heightened risk and some concern with summer camps and the spread of infection. And so at that point, NSF was asked if we could somehow modify our tier 2 visits and target summer camps specifically in the region of Waterloo. So we did that. We worked together with public health. We modified the program. We wound up visiting about 30 summer camps above and beyond the 40 as well. And so that gave confidence to the camps and to the campers and to their parents. The other thing that wasn't captured here as well, again, another unique tier 2 was with Explore Waterloo, where last fall, one of the first conferences to happen in the region was the CanSPEP conference that was held. And so Waterloo engaged with us and we provided consulting services to the CanSPEC conference organizers basically over the protocols, best practices, the sorts of things we learned as we were helping other conference organizers across North America, we were providing to them as well. So again, that was a unique tier 2 visit. So I think that's what the message I wanted to say as well was these tier 2 visits were an opportunity to provide unique, deeper dive consultative services to businesses to help them really manage the risks and operate safely.
Great, thanks. And Paul, maybe if you can continue on to the next slide, which talks about some of the observations.
Sure. So as Matthew stated, as the province moved us from step to step, our observations changed as well, and as did the questions and the needs of the businesses. So overall, we had a 98% success rate. So what does that mean? That means that of the businesses we visited, 98% of them met the criteria to earn the sticker on the door. For the ones who didn't, we were able to go back and conduct a revisit. And probably I'd say about 95% of those times, business was successful on their second attempt. So we feel this is a great success rate. We did find some trends. I would say the biggest trend in terms of challenges facing the business was around that COVID-19 workplace safety plan. I'd say that about a third of the businesses didn't have the plan written or didn't have it written well. That was one area that the ambassador would actually sit with the operator and give them advice on how to improve their plan. Interestingly, we found that businesses like restaurants tended to have their COVID-19 plan in place. That's because they're used to being inspected by public health, right? Where public health would always ask for their safety logs, their temperature logs, their hand washing logs, right? So they know all about the paperwork. But a small shoe store wouldn't necessarily know that, or if the business was operated by only 1 or 2 people. So this is actually a very interesting observation, and one that we are very happy to share with public health, because I think it speaks to what are the needs of small businesses around paperwork and that aspect of it. So I think it's opened up some eyes even among the public health folks as to the importance and the need of paperwork and the burden onto business. So that was an interesting one. Early on in the pandemic, or early on in the program, businesses were asking us about sanitizers and disinfectants. As you'll recall, businesses were struggling to find them. So one thing they're really grateful for was that toolkit that Matthew mentioned that had many of the materials for them, including the masks. So they were asking what's approved, what's not approved, where can I find it, how do I make my own, how about the bleach that I'm using, that sort of thing. It evolved over time. More recently, especially with the Omicron variant, it all became about rapid testing. Where can I get a rapid test kit? That's where we are very happy to point them toward Chamber Check for that particular aspect as well. More recently now, it's been around contact tracing as well. I believe over the next couple of months, it's going to be around things such as, while there may not be capacity limits in many businesses, some will still have capacity limits. How do I maintain my physical distancing if I'm going to be at 100% capacity? We can help coach them through that. There will still be masking requirements. We can help coach them through that as well. So there are going to be things over the course of the next few months as we remain in this in-between stage where businesses are going to have, I'm sure, many more questions for us as well. Questions are asked of the ambassadors while they are there, but because the business gets a report outlining how they did and some additional links and information, they're given our email address. So many businesses wind up emailing us after the fact with additional questions along these lines as well. And we remain very happy to offer, to answer those questions.
Great. Thanks, Paul. So we can go to the next slide. So just to wrap up the update today, we wanted to share some snippets of some of the really positive posts that businesses were posting about the program after they received the visit from the ambassador and received their sticker. It again, I think it shows we started to see these pop up almost immediately after ambassadors started to go out when the program was initially launched, and they continue to be posted today. So it's really kind of just a testament to the program itself and what it means for businesses here, for their employees, and then again instilling confidence in customers and patrons coming into their businesses. So I'll turn it over. Like if Paul or Ian, if you have anything else to add with regards to this, I'll just pause for a second and let you make any additional comments.
Yeah, Matt, thanks. First of all, Matt's done a great job on this, and so thank you for his leadership and to Paul as well for making this happen. But a lot of that will go to Matt's staff and certainly my staff that have been working on this and really making sure all the details were worked out. So thanks to my staff and to Matt's team as well. One thing I've probably said this before in speaking with council and certainly with Matt, is one of the things that we took time at the front end to do, and I think this will be helpful for us moving forward as we partner on other things in the years ahead or months ahead, is that we took the time to design this so it looked and felt like it was business friendly, as opposed to, and I have some experience with government. Sometimes they don't always look as friendly as we think they do. And this one certainly is. And I think a big chunk of that goes to Paul and his team, but also Matt and ourselves to make sure that we made this a business friendly looking program. I would say, in my view, it's been an unqualified success. It is business friendly. It's business. It feels and looks like it's business led with Paul and his team and the chambers. It's easy to understand, and it's time effective, or the time for a business to invest in this mind is well worth it. So. And the value adds also help. I've heard great comments around. I got masks. I got Lysol wipes, etc. So it's everything about has worked together very well. As we look to reopening, I mean, the importance of this is going to be I think Paul and Matt described this as the in between. They're loosening restrictions, but many businesses themselves will be feeling their way through of how fast they're going to open up and what they're comfortable doing for not only for them, for their customers, but for their own staff and for their own business. So having a program like this that can, as Paul describes it, coach them through what does the current environment mean for my business and how do I safely operate it will be really important. And I think it would be a great transition to maintain this for the interim while we get back to whatever the new normal, which won't look like it was before January of 2020, but it's going to be something different than it is right now. So I just thought I'd make those comments and again thank Regional Council for your investment in the program. I know I actually now look for it every time I go into a store. Is I wonder if they've got their COVID safe sticker, and there's a lot of them around. So it's a success story, and thanks for council's support of it.
I too would like to thank the council and the chambers. You have been absolutely wonderful to work with. Passionate teams, hearts in the right place, wanting to do good work for sure, and it comes through. I'd like to read this email that I received yesterday because we get, again, spontaneous emails from business owners thanking us about the program. This one came from John. He's the owner of Water Street Auto. So yesterday he wrote, just want to thank the inspector for the visit. Very professional and pleasant, ! We appreciate the interest in us providing a safe work environment. So, that speaks to the kind of feedback we're getting both, that we hear from the ambassadors and that we get via emails as well. So it's just, it's thrilling for our team because we are at NSF, a public health and safety organization. I'm a former health inspector, right? So I've got public health running through my veins. So knowing that we're actually having an impact out there, helping businesses stay healthy, stay safe is great for us as well. And we're very appreciative of the program.
I saw Greg. I didn't see him before, but I don't know if you've got any other feedback. But certainly, this has been something that we have pushed and promoted the Chamber Check program and certainly Ambassador program for the full period that's been in operation. It's been. I know I get tremendous feedback, like Paul just read. But any comments, Greg?
No, you've rambled enough for both of us. So, but just suffice it to say that it's a fantastic program, and you deserve a lot of credit, Council, for supporting a program like this.
Okay. So now where do we go from here?
Well, I guess before
questions.
Yeah, if there's any, I think before we go to the report, Chair Jowett, we can take any questions from the committee.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Matt. I see Chair Redmond had her hand up first, so we'll go there first.
Thanks. I actually have two questions, and I put my hand up when we were waiting for Matthew Chandy to come back on the screen, so I thought I was help rag the puck. I think Ian and Greg touched on what I wanted to point out, which is this is an amazing partnership, but this is all possible. And Paul, you've talked about this when we've done media together, that it was the council stepping up with money saying we're ready to go. So this has been an amazing program. There's a lot of metrics that you're measuring. So Paul, this is for you because this couldn't have happened without NSF, and we know that. And It's not that everybody isn't contributing. What I loved about this was the fact that the ambassadors were actually people that were training in public health. And I think of PSWs, I think about, planning officials and places where we know there's a huge deficit. And to me, this was, enabling people to demonstrate they know how to fish instead of handing them the fish. And I know you said there were 20 ambassadors and now there's 12, and that you scoop 3 of them at NSF. Do you track, and I took note that you said the state of Michigan, which is slightly larger than the region, is sort of undertaking this. Are you tracking sort of the trajectory of the careers of those people?
Great question. We are not. In Michigan, we actually didn't use students exclusively. We used a few students, but other independent contractors. What I will say is the program was successful in Michigan, but we improved it in Canada. We improved the use of students and some other lessons learned as well. In Canada, we are tracking the students. If we hire them, we will know where they came from. And it is a leg up for sure.
I can't tell you, the aspects of this are just so wonderful. And the other question I have is, we're not through this yet, and I know that all of the speakers have sort of referenced that. When do we know when we can close up shop, or is this something that we should continue to breathe life into, because it is about relationships and is about treating businesses the way they want to be treated, with respect and with a business lens? And maybe that's a question for council. I don't know.
Maybe I can, through the chair, if I can just add a comment on that. So the report that's that's in front of Economic Development Committee today is actually a report to further extend the program for another 4 months, and that's based on the feedback that we've been receiving with regards to the ongoing need for the program. And again, as we saw yesterday, more change is coming, and so ensuring that at least over the next 4 months that this support is still provided, particularly to small and medium-sized businesses across Waterloo region.
Thanks, Chairman. Councilor Keeper.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Paul, and thank you, Ian and Greg. Great to see our chambers of commerce in collaboration. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I do have a quick question. The first comment is, I think this program is great, and the feedback that you're getting is outstanding, Paul. The gentleman that owns Auto Street Auto is a former teammate of mine, so it's it's a very good comment from him to bring back to you. But the question I had is, you mentioned you had 20 ambassadors in the summer, and you're down to 12 now. Like, what's the capacity of how many ambassadors that you can have? Because I think the program is great.
Thank you. Well, it's almost like the sky's the limit. NSF itself, we're a global auditing firm. We do hundreds of thousands of audits per year around the world. So we've got the machinery to ramp up and do any kind of audit anywhere. What we're limited is by how many audits are required. We went with 20 students because it was summer at the time the students were available, and we were really doing a lot of visits. There's natural turnover with the students, right? Some of them graduated, they went back home, they weren't available, so we had to hire new students. So what I could do is I can get an actual number of the total number of students who've gone through the ambassador program, and I'll share that with you. But basically the ebb and flow is just due to students graduating and leaving, or deciding they want to focus on something else at the time. And we can do more. For sure we could do more.
Anyways, that's great. Great program. Thanks.
Thank you.
You got this? Councilor Bavich, okay.
I didn't hear you.
No worries.
Thanks, Chair Jowett. I really just wanted to take this opportunity to compliment the team for all the great work that's been done. Matt from a regional end, always great to see Ian and Greg, talking and working together and not fighting each other. No, I'm just kidding. Great collaboration between those two. And Paul, obviously, you've been an integral part of this as well. It's certainly been well received, and I think it's been an excellent program. From a regional point of view, I mean, we're always sort of looking at, what role does region play in economic development versus the role that our lower tier municipalities play. And I think this was a great example where there was a role for the region in the middle of the pandemic, a cross-region approach, and particularly focused around healthcare, which is, as we know, public health is within our bailiwick, and so it was a great way to support the businesses during a very confusing and challenging times of ups and downs, of open and close and do this and do that and stop this and stop that, and probably the only thing that's been consistent is wear a mask through all of that. But I think this certainly has helped, and more importantly, has also given the public, or certainly those who choose to watch for this kind of thing, an air of confidence in terms of the businesses that they go in to frequent, and important. And I think, I'm certainly very supportive of this renewal, and if there isn't a mover yet, Chair Jowett, I'd be pleased to move it, because I do think that as much as many of us are said, we're done with this, we're happy to see the opening up happening, there are those who are stressed and reluctant and think it's too much too quickly. And one of the things that I worry about, quite frankly, in terms of the restaurant scene, is there will be a whole group of people that are saying, great, I don't need to do this or do that anymore, I'm going in. And there's going to be another group of people that are going to say, like, I don't know if I want to go in there if there's a bunch of people that don't have to be vaccinated anymore. So I think there's good, I think the jury's out in terms of how things are going to flow over the next few months, and something like this may be that leveling factor as we continue going forward. So thanks everyone for your great work.
Thanks, Councilor Bennett. I too want to just quickly speak to the fact that the key success factors shared today really are speaking to the comprehensive understanding of the collaboration. It was business language and business speak. I can tell you, when I was running my business, I had 60 temps out during SARS. That was all business responding to business challenges. Whereas this time around, the way that we were able to respond to these needs, Rob's company was pivoting on pivot to be able to help people with comprehensive movements so that they could speak to it. We saved Shu Lee managing the employment sector of the public health challenges very quickly, which was very helpful because she was already quite inundated. Best Waterloo region worked really well together with our dev team. We had more relevant, specific information that was helping our businesses. And of course, Ian and Greg were king distributors, making sure that the businesses could easily access what we had to supply. Now, the real benefit I see here too, that I'm quite proud of, is in my business, 100 applicants moved to 10 people being shortlisted to 3 potential candidates to 1 job. And Paul has literally proven that a co-op situation like this perpetuates job growth. So I'm really excited that you were able to get all of these business sort of solutions coming forward, and some of them we didn't even realize we would get again. So 6,000 people got education, awareness, and support on the level that they required. And of course, I cannot help but say yet again that Matt knows how to find money and match it to programs in a way that I have never seen before. So those are my closing remarks. And yes, Councilor Urbanovich, thank you for moving the motion. And do we need to put the motion up, Matthew? What are you thinking?
If it should be, the motion should be in the report that is in front of committee now, but thank perfect. You. There we go.
Okay, and I'm looking for a seconder for said motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Kiefer. And all of those in favor? And that is carried. Really proud of this work, Matthew. I hope you are too. And Greg and Ian, for everything that you did to help us, roll this thing out in such an amazing way that really did hit the businesses. So thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, so that is a unanimous carry. Any information or correspondence? I'm seeing none. Any other business? Okay, also seeing none. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting, please. Thank you, Chair Redmond, seconded by Councillor Kiefer. All those in favor? Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. For those of you who are sticking around for regional official plan, I believe we have a few minutes. So is this the